hooks to screen. Most people don't understand it. Even now, if you look at the TV shows on Booknerds, the Ramayana, the Mahabharats, a lot of content used to be inspired or based on book. I will name a movie which nobody has watched, and Mike has watched theatre all alone. So even if you pick up a book, the book has to be very different from the film, because there is nothing that a book can capture that you can actually visualize in the way that a movie does. Obviously, there are things like story, plot, high concept idea, character arc, marketing proposition, they stand out, all of those lead them. I generally think that the producer is the most underrated position in the film industry. Thank you to the entire team, blend with that. Of course, Booknerds is curating the fiction side of it, and thank you, Mayank and Sidharth, for coming in from Bombay and doing this. The adaptation process, it's working so well right now. You guys, or Sidharth, was acing it, and you are things in that universe, and you are experiencing it firsthand. But first of all, what about Bengaluru? Are you enjoying it till now? Is the weather different from Bombay? How are you feeling right now? The afternoon is exactly like Bombay. Okay, the evening, the super fan, the people to awesome, a better evening. And what about the dosa? The dosa is my doing. I landed, went for a dosa. I woke up, had a dosa. I'm going to go for a dosa after this. Okay, so then what about you? No, so what about the dosa first? We need to talk about the dosa here in Bangalore, and then we talk about books and movies.
Firstly, thank you for having me, Ron. I remember that the first book reading that I did once this was out, I think 2016, or with you in Dehradun, which is an amazing town as well.
And after that with Amitabh Bachchan.
With Amitabh Bachchan then after that, so. But I don't think I come to Bangalore for the dosa.
Okay.
I come to Bangalore for the beers.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed them so far. It's a city that I think is very tough to get a hang of. It's a city under construction, I feel. It's grows at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
And I was having this conversation before we got here. I think the only way I think of it in my head is that this is Pune on steroids. So there was so much common between the two. Both became IT hubs at some point.
Yeah.
Both have certainly a neighborhood that remind me of each other.
Yeah.
They're both very strongly town of their state.
Yeah.
And then they've grown into cosmopolitan cities over the past decade and a half. So yeah, and I love Pune and I love Bangalore. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Blend, represents Bengaluru more than anything else, because they do everything together. These are cool people, they are doing literature and, acing the fashion game. The sir here, he's acing the fashion game. And of course, Sharona here, and full doing that as well. So this Blend community is an interesting mix. It's just doing every day. Anyway, let's get to the point. Hooks to screen. Most people don't understand it, even now. Sidharth, they have been doing this for a bit. They've been in the industry for a while, worked with WhatsApp, seen it all. Now comes the books to screen phenomena, and you are at the helm of it. I also noticed online that a lot of publishers were like, hippie about it. What are you talking about? Was it like that, or it was all hunky-dory?
No, I think book to screen always was there. It was just never something that producers in Bombay focused on, because traditionally the script would be written like a filmmaker director to think of a story. You would write a script, go to an actor would say, yeah, then you go to a producer, and then get your finance and meet with them. Things changed after streaming, and then suddenly there were non-directors, non-promoters who wanted to find a story. There would be good. If you look at the TV shows on Booknerds, the Ramayana, the Mahabharats, a lot of content used to be inspired or based on books, and not the usual books, but things around the same universe. And it's just that I think after streaming, the need for stories on paper, the starting point, became very important. And all I did was start reading a few books and recommending them to producer friends. And it just gave up this. The producers don't read. They want to hear narration of scripts. So obviously they can't get a narration of. In fact, I went to this one old food producer in Bombay 4 years ago, and they said that it's an opposite acha hai. Can you give me a narration of the book?
I have to find an audiobook and send them. Oh my God, that's a business in itself, actually. Yeah, but see what they want, right? Basically, Bombay, like you discover that anybody wants a shortcut solution to their problem. And what I think I was doing was just really curating story in the form of published book and taking into the right producer, like connecting your dot. And people found it valuable. So we had a nice run. And now we are focusing a lot more on actually getting them made. So developing them into scripts, then producing them, getting them funded by the platforms. So we actually now move to the next two stages of taking the first stream. The book stream basically is finding a story in the power book and converting it into a script and a project that can be financed and put in. So great job. I mean, you have started this. I mean, on a serious note, it is why we are, glued to our screens. I mean, it's a good thing. I'm a reader, but we have to thank you as well because these stories that are coming out won't come out. Because, for example, the trial by fire, we talk about it in a bit of detail and ask Mayank also about it. I hope you have watched it. After that, I read. So, Mayank watches everything under the sun.
It's not possible. You can't possibly watch everything.
I will name
I don't want more than other people.
I will name a movie which nobody has watched, and Mayank has watched theatre all alone.
We are quite a few of them.
Quite a few of them. Anyway, so it's his job, of course. But talking about the book to screen phenomenon, what is the change you have noticed in terms of content? Because you are looking at it very analytically, not just from a consumption point of view. Does the OTT format, is it more suited to it? How are things changing, It's changed up. It is a turn.
I think honestly, and I'm not just saying this because Sidharth is here. I'm a huge fan of his entrepreneur. I've known him for about a decade and a half. And you caught on to something before streamers became a thing. It's an obvious thing now to sort of look at books and look at novels as a way to adapt them into series for a series. Purely because the series allows for multiple characters and exploring each character's journey. In chapters, you will make exactly. And so you could have, say, 18 characters in it and you could delve into their life for one full episode and then come back to the lead. So whereas a film, for the fact that it be so strongly structured, is a thing of its own. So even if you pick up a book, the book has to be very different from the film. Because there is nothing that a book can capture that you can actually visualize in the way that a movie does. On the other hand, I think OTT series is the novella or the novel of our times. We also consume it very similarly. We literally watch it alone. It could be on your phone. It could also be on your television screen. And it's allowed for entertainment that is not family entertainment. So it's really you and the characters, you and that story in the way that we've always made books. So that's one big change that I noticed. And it's a change that goes so well with adapting novels because it's possible now. The other question that you asked was about what other changes have I seen in film. I think the adaptation from film to books is a tricky one, especially for people who are avid readers. Inevitably, I notice they seem to hate the movie that the book is based on, especially if they love that book, right? And the reason is obvious. The book demands far more out of you than a film does. The film is a far more visceral medium, but expected to lie down and all they say is you're bored. The analysis is not go beyond it, and that's good now. You don't need to do more than that. Whereas you're put in far more effort to read a book because the characters are there, the storyline is there, but you are also imagining all of it. So a reader in a novel is almost like the director of a film, according to me. So he's a costume designer, but he's imagined what that person is wearing. He's definitely the director of cinematography because he's imagining in his own head what that place looks like, right? He is certainly the casting director because he also imagined what that guy looks like in his own head based on a very general description of what that, of course, it becomes easier depending on the description, but you can't go berserk on the description either, right? So if you just kept it to a certain point. So for instance, I have seen a lot of films based on books that I've loved, and I've rated them purely because I imagined something else in my head. And that's what came out. So to give you a great example, one of my favorite books growing up was The English Abyss by Kupamani Chatterjee. It's a fabulous book set around the time when I was in college of a guy who came from my college. So there's so much connection, right? And he's talking about a guy who's sitting in the cafeteria, which is the cafeteria, I'm sitting and reading the book. So it could be this dude. When I see Rahul Bose, I mean, no, that's not the guy. These are not a guy of my college. That's the guy from your college. Yeah, that's not the guy from my college. Not what saw. It's about looking a certain way. Like a guy who is like always the doobie in his hand, he's not going to be that, creepy as Rahul is. Much as a great actor he must be, but he is not the actor. He's not the actor for that role. So the moment you see Augustus and Augustus in Haney.
Have you watched Jack Reacher?
Yes.
So the book and movie, it's the apt example, right? With Jack Reacher, who is that? Jack is tall, scam. He's like perhaps a Matthew David or something, He's so tall with a big unit. And then comes along Tom Cruise. So the reader in us is confused. And that's why perhaps it sang as well, in the beginning. And now they're changing, for the character and everything. You're redoing it. You're so right. That is, it's counterproductive in some ways. Okay, a follow-up question to Sidharth, because we do a powerful mentality.
Yeah.
Okay.
You saw.
We trial by fire. Abhay Hyol is he's so good. And whatever he does, he does it for the art of it. That's what we love as well. But how did it fit into the sort of, what happened to Bharat, cinema and Krishnamurti? Because when I checked out your book, and the pictures in there, thank you so much. Because I'm thankful to you for adapting that book, first of all. But what were the discussions like with Trial by Fire? Because, sometimes the characters looks too different or, it is not believable. Then what does the director and your team do to make it very authentic? Because these readers, all the readers are, they go on Twitter and write, I hate this. I did not like the depiction and whatnot. So what were the discussions like? The PTS.
So you see, for Driver Pilot, because it was a story that needed to be told, he had to get the emotion right. And because it's non-fiction, the reader, he's not imagining too much because they can go and they can search and there is, information available. So like, Mayank said, in fiction, they are the directors and the producer. In non-fiction, that gets limited a bit by reality. I think that very key. Also, we really focus, like you said, on the emotional portion of the parent journey to get justice for not only victims, but for all the victims who are in the tragedy. And the goal was to get that right, so that it's also documented for the generation and for the global audience. So the first place that I actually went to with that film was Netflix about, I thought the world does not know about the story. Also contemporary, the generation of today has no idea what happened. That was a good way to kind of bring it into the conversation at least.
Would you like to tell everyone about the, gist of it, because not everybody knows about
25 years ago, so the fire in theater in Delhi, in Upar Cinema, where 59 victims died in the fire because of negligence of the theater owners. And it took them more than 25 years of parents who lost their children to get justice on behalf of all the victims from the courts. So the story of the journey was really focusing on these two parents and some other characters who were affected by the loss that they suffered of their family, dying in that fire. And it really speaks about the problem system, the security, the way we take everything very casually in our country, safety, responsibility. Every person should be actually doing what they're supposed to do, but they sometimes don't. And then what happens? So the repercussions of that I see are and try to bring that out with the series on Netflix. Do check it out if you haven't. It's a tough story because it's about loss. It's also very inspiring to call decide the dog. How do you, fight for justice. And it also reflects upon though, well, I think not much has changed in India, although what has changed. And I think this carries attitude to public safety. Be abused as much as you can. And I
noticed that, while reading the book, I noticed that even the exits for that cinema, they had extra seats. You remember those VIP boxes back in the day? And I don't know if they have it anymore. But there are 2-3 things that
happened, in the cinema at that time, in the theater. So all the places where there were supposed to be fire extinguishers, they were boomed. The management of the cinema, the moment the audience would get in and the show would start, they would lock the doors from outside with a lock. And there were no fire systems, obviously. The generator that caused the fire had a small fire that day in the morning, but they still continued with it. They didn't have permission to run the theater in that month. They were still running the theater. Like you said, the emergency exits were blocked because the owners made VIP boxes. I mean, these are all of those examples, but I think he's in so many other places it's like even outside theaters. Like when I walked in, I was wondering, where's the fire engineer? Where's the fire extinguisher?
You're too aware in section because you have read the book, been through the process, and now you're so aware about these. I feel in India, we think about these things in general. So, okay. Guys, do check out the book if you can. I don't think so it's available here, but you can go on Amazon or, and watch the series also. Sidharth has made it. We have to watch it if you haven't already. बाकी तो वैसे तो सबने almost देख लिया. But your book, I noticed the name place animal thing, it's right here. I noticed a chapter on Himesh. It was the most fun chapter ever. I don't know if you remember it. You do? Okay. So that chapter on Himesh, our Desi Rockstar, that is the most entertaining piece of writing I have read this week. And thank you so much for that. It was very full of fun. He tells us about that phenomena, that charm of the early 2000s and whatever. But talk us through that phenomenal change you saw.
No, I think as journalists, what we tend to do is capture the reality of that moment. And that's one of the reasons why I write. And that's also one of the reasons why I would want it to be kept somewhere for later, because it becomes a document of the times. And Himesh as a phenomenon was a phenomenon when I wrote it. He's not a phenomenon anymore, but that can be said for a lot of people. I mean, I think 10 years roughly in music, 10 years roughly how long they last. But they were there, and how big they were, it's something that I will not be able to write now, because there is the issue with memory more than anything else. With the fact that it impacts you, it doesn't impact me as much. It doesn't impact the reader as much. But it would be interesting to go back to that really what it was 10 years ago. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. Or that's one of the reasons why I write in the first place, including about movies or about series or about people in general or popular culture. It's to sort of document it as history. And journalism is the first draft of history. We tend to confuse journalism to be only about politics, but I think politics does not have as strong an impact eventually over time as culture does. And importance anywhere the downstream of culture in the real sense. So no, I can't tell you anything about Himesh. We have forgotten. But I can tell you something about what's going on now, and that's the nature of what we do. It's constantly evolving.
Okay, let me ask you about because the last podcast of yours, what I watched, and of course you'll be writing about it very soon, I am pretty sure, and you should. They placed Animal Thing Part 2, perhaps, the one with Karan Johar, and you should watch this interaction. I have never seen him like that. And I don't know about the BPF, and also about his process. Have you interacted with him also so that you would please answer that, and what is he like? And that entire experience, although it's a side note to this session, but how was it? It was very surreal watching him like that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is the attempt, right? There's so much of material that gets put out on an hourly, on a minute-by-minute basis. On some people who are extremely unique in their own right and whatever it is they do. So if you're doing a session with someone, you have to make sure that it's literally something is never said before. The BTS is very simple, Rohan, and for people who do podcasting and stuff, maybe this would be a good a word of advice. is don't have a conversation with someone before you start having a conversation with them before a camera. Because a lot of the times, because either they kind of know you or you kind of getting them open up, they say things beforehand that you don't want them to repeat. कि आपने जो भी बोला था उसे बोल दीजिए. So the BTS is this. You are sitting there, I'm sitting here, and there's a camera there, the three cameras set up, and I'm not saying a word to you. I just go like this. And I'm looking away and like, so the moment it starts, it has to be a conversation as if it happened with nothing else around. And that is the aim of a good conversation. You're seeing like there's nobody else around you. And that print journalists do really well because they're used to being in setting where there is no camera. So replicate that with camera is the hard part. But I think with podcasts you can, because you have the time to get that person to open up. So a good podcast, I think, really picks up in the last 40 minutes, I think. If it's an hour plus, or if it's 1.5 hours, then last third is where the real good stuff happens, because by then, it's like Big Boss house, right? If you enter Big Boss house, and I've actually done a story on living inside Big Boss house for 24 hours. The first 5-6 hours, you're very conditioned to believe that there are 100 cameras around you. Yeah. It is impossible that you will always be conscious of it after a point. And then people start doing whatever, but they don't care anymore. They just become themselves. So that's a BTS. Not to make conversation with someone before you start making a formal one. And second, to somehow or the other make them believe that they're sitting alone with you in a room. I know it's tough, but it's the way to read.
No, it's actually Nirvana, podcast Nirvana, what you spoke about, because I noticed that it was so palpable when you were doing these interactions. Okay, let's get back to the agenda, because I love those sneakers. So that I have to talk about those sneakers. They're so cool. Anyways, so that this process, you have a team, and you know what? When you not consider something for adaptation, what are the primary reasons to that? Is it a very quick process, or it can change over format, or the kind of book that you have picked up?
Making the content is exactly how an artist operates. You largely come from a point of instinct. And an instinct is driven by experience of, making things happen, what can get made, what cannot, understanding all the variables. I mean, Mayank, there's so many variables in taking something to see, and I think it's 100 different variables. It's like I'll get that you need to kind of process in your mind, and it comes out as instincts. So obviously there are things like story, plot, high concept idea, character arc, marketing proposition, where it stand out, all of those item. But largely I think the process that we follow is largely instinct. It's very, very curated, it's very, very specific. It's not a non-linear, it's not a catalog of a publisher. I don't have a catalog of myself. So it's a very, very on-the-go kind of a person. I think that's the reason why a lot of the people come to us, because they get full sort of publishers on the road. But it's just navigating the sea of ocean of stories is what we need to do for like an artist, like a creator. So it, like in our heads, every kid in the office is a director of the people. And I always tell every kid in Bombay, I know that they think like a producer, think like a filmmaker. Would you do this? Right, and why? And then the moment you start thinking like this, would you put in all your money that you ever had into making this? And go the answer is here, then there's something going.
Very interesting to have you here, Matt, because you are a writer, you are an author. It's two different things, of course.
No, it isn't. You're just writing. It doesn't matter whether it turns into a book or it turns.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's for the marketing for it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So, it's very interesting. Can a book be written considering that it has to go to screen? Is it possible to kind of do that?
I think Chetan Bhagat has done that. If you read him, you realize when he's actually writing a screenplay, it's so plot-based that the adaptation might be an easier process. Because I'm not saying necessarily be a better film, because that is the talent of a filmmaker, right? Because the filmmaker's job is so different from an author's. For one, a filmmaker, unlike an author, cannot talk about what your brain is thinking. the eternal monologue is not possible in a film or on screen. So that's a very tough art of adaptation, right? But by and large, I think there are a lot of people in the publishing world I can think of what would be called, paperback file fiction. They literally hope that it's become the movie first. And that may be a dangerous thing. That may be a dangerous.
I have a view on this, and I feel filmmaking is a collaborative job. And I think an author should not write like a screenplay. They should not write like a film. They should write like an author because they do one thing, because they talk about what's happening inside the head. See, they're two different crafts, right? Screenplay writing and writing a book. The reason we want to adapt a book is because we don't have the depth that the author has. They spend years sometimes writing a book, formulating a book, creating those characters, and we won't die. And you find a way to adapt it to screen. You find a way to, crunch it, concise it, and take it to a screenplay. So I tell every author that I work with, please do not worry about me. Don't write a scene, be a film. See what you're amazing at. Follow your own voice, your own instinct, and write it your way. I mean, I wouldn't want Harry Potter. People don't read scripts, right? They read for a reason. If I publish a script, how many people actually want to read a script? Go on. So nobody does, because do you know about the final edition of J.K. Rowling book, the script? That part didn't even sell. I mean, they just brought it out and nobody bought it. Because of the same reason, writers, authors don't write scriptwriters, please don't write books. You don't have the depth in your head, please write in things. So writing comes from deep inside you in very different area. And it's from organically.
I know of an author who spent the last 5 years, they're building a fantasy novel. All those 5 years, she was building the character, and she lives in Japan, she lives from Bombay, and the book is coming out later next year. I was shocked. So that's what I mean. Can there imagine Asian friends and how and can have different authors? That's so fun, right? Even Fred and because you let her print the almost. Let's talk about movies though. I'm about this reality. I believe that's fine. Let's talk about Khufiya because it's out recently and it's a book to three adaptation, and Vishal Bhardwaj, when he's there, so everybody takes notice, stands up, looks at it, watches it, goes back to the book as well, comes back, swears on Twitter, and so a bit about that.
No, so I think I'll take off on 6 points about how you should write your book and someone should film themselves. And I think Khufiya is a good example, not just for the fact that both of us have just seen it, so it's top of the mind in that sense. But Khufiya is also a good example that I watched it first and I didn't like it so much because I loved the book and the film doesn't capture any of what the book was in its essence. There's a reason why I love the book, and I explain to you why. So Khufiya is this film on Netflix directed by Vishal Bhardwaj with Tabu and Vamika Gabi in it. It's a spy thriller set in the world of raw counterintelligence, espionage, etc., etc. Obviously not along the lines of a Pathan or a Tiger, which essentially blasts as or a James Bond kind of movie. It's more realistic than that, but it still needs to have its twists and turns that if it's not there in a film, you might lose interest. Whereas Amar Bhut's novel, That's Taken Nowhere, is effectively an ex-raw person writing a book about his experience of being an agent, as it were, or a raw man, as it were, which I realized only after reading that book. I was quite astounded by about how their life is like any other bureaucrat / babu operating in the Central Secretariat in New Delhi. They could be from Agriculture Ministry, they could be from Fertilizer and Chemical Ministry, they could be from Petroleum Ministry. They happen to be raw agents. They wake up in the morning, they pack their dabba, they go, there's a bus that takes them there, they're sitting there, they bitch about, Berlin, mujhe bhej rahe hain Bangladesh. And that is really, there is nothing smooth like about these sympathizers. He's a genuine guy, he's genuinely talking about his experience. So I thought I would go to watch that. Maybe now in hindsight, what I'm thinking about is like, yeah, family man to bunch of you. So maybe he didn't take that hook for that reason.
Like I said, right, Vishal Bhardwaj would
Tabu will make the film that he can make.
Yeah.
That excites him.
Right.
And I think, Ahmad Bhushan wrote this, the experiences are all the top.
Right.
And that's it. So, if he need to separate the two and let each person do their own thing. Because when he's writing a book, he's writing it alone.
Yeah.
But a collaborative medium like a film is 100 people trying to figure out a common vision. And I really enjoyed Khufiya. Should watch it actually. It's on Netflix. Top yesterday. I mean, Tabu's such a deep performer. I mean, Ahmad Bhushan would never imagined, right?
Yeah.
I'm writing about Tabu in my book.
Yeah.
And she would play it this way. And the music,
Yeah.
the direction,
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way I saw it, and because we're talking about Vishal Bharadwaj, and there's a podcast I've done with him, which I think you will like if you like the Dhananjay one. I think this is a better one, Mark. This is better than that. But the good way to see it and is to, because you can be a cricketer, is through a cricket analogy, right? I mean, literally in that book, there is a ball court, there is a pitch that is there. So you know kind of the premise, which is what happens in that book. But what the run-up will be, how the run-up will be, will he throw a pass-face ball or a quickie or a swing? What that shot will be, what the fielding positions will be, where the ball will go, is totally Vishal Bharadwaj. It has absolutely nothing to do with that book. So it's a takeoff point. And therefore, just because you've written a great novel or a great book, because it's totally your experience, it does not guarantee a great movie. In fact, the reverse is often the case. Nobody thought of Mario Puzo's Godfather to be a literary masterpiece. It is like whatever book.
I could read it, but then I really could read. Because it was such a flop for me. But when of course, I would look at what that movie is, and how that movie got made. If you guys are interested, you have to watch the audio. Exactly. So I mean, it is the best especially because you're a producer. Like, it's a sense of the kind of work that would be. We all know about what directors do. We tell them to be artists that they are, and they deserve all the accolades. But there is a producer who is one-minded ambition is to turn this average book into the masterpiece. So we know popular, but we don't know the man who actually made that book. That's how guys like Sidharth come in, and I genuinely think that the producer is the most underrated position in the film industry, and the most selfless guy, because he's not going to be as celebrated as Coppola, because you don't even know who the producer was. But if you see his story, it's called The Offer is on Who. You're struck by the genius of this man who stuck to a dream, where all that Mario Puzo to do was sit with a room and a type. But this is something else. He's like even actual mafia to pull this off, the shit that he's going through, the money that he loses, and eventually, for it become Godfather, it could have become a shit movie also, right? Yeah. So yeah. Thank you so much, guys. And an analogy, I mean, it can be a weird one. Like, for example, Nirvana songs. Who doesn't know them, right? I mean, but we really want to hear a new rendition, perhaps an Indian classical rendition of a Nirvana song, or Come As You Are, So why would I want to see exactly the same thing on screen? I mean, I think that could be a great road to end the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it'd be impossible also to adapt it on screen the way it's written, because as we discussed earlier, the two media are completely different. They do complete different things to our mind. So I remember first reading Life of Pi, and I couldn't for the life of me imagine how it could be filmed. It's an unfilmable novel. But look at what the director does, and he uses the technical chop to freaking put that. It stops the Life of Pi, the book. It becomes about the title fountain on you. You can't write that. You can't write an amazing 3D scene of a tiger pouncing on you, and what it does to you is so visceral that a book can't do, and for that thing that book can do, with a movie will never do.
And guys, don't watch the movie and then read the book. Don't do that. Life of Pi especially, don't do that. The other way around may work, but no. Sometimes the book is great and the movie is great too, right? I think The Namesake is a good example. I thought there was such a pretty masterpiece, and you're right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for doing this, and both podcast tips in the middle. I have taken them down and kind of boys, way to invite that to that. Thank you so much for all that you're doing, and doing it in such a boutique manner, which is very tough to do. I'm sure you will be getting so many offers in the future, where you will be considering commerce, etc. These people love that. Thank you so much for doing all of that, you're doing. Yeah, it's there.